Hi guys, and welcome back. So we're going to get started now. I'm going to hand the mic over to Rob, our VP product, who's going to walk you through the Easy Composer plugin. Feel free to ask any questions during the demo, and Rob will try and answer them as best as he can. And hopefully that we have time. We lost some time because of the technical issues, but hopefully we'll also have time to show the depth of field feature on the new version of the Easy Post Effects plugin. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and let's go ahead. So I'm going to introduce you to Rob Chen, our VP product, who's going to take it from here.
Hey guys, I'm Rob, and today I want to talk about an advanced compositing technique inside Viz Artist with our plugin, Easy Composer tool. So, have you ever been in a situation when you want to be able to work with the capabilities of that you have in software like After Effects or Nuke or any kind of composition tool inside Viz? So I do, and it happens a lot. You want to build a complex animation, and the built-in tools inside VisualT don't let you do that, right? So you probably use the third-party software like Cinema 4D, maybe Maya, 3ds Max to do your tasks. After you made your beautiful renders, you import them into Viz and then continue from that point with the rest of your design process. But what happens if you want to use a dynamic data inside Viz? I mean, to use your renders and then to compose it, the data on top of it. So until now, you had two options. First, to import your 3D geometry to Viz with the same animation and everything, and then to map your data on top of it, right? This technique is quite limited because what happens if your animation is a geometry animation, a mesh animation, and not a simple transformation like scaling, rotation, and position? So a couple of months ago, we came up with an idea to make the tool that will allow you to do exactly that, and also will make your life easier in terms of compositing system inside VisualT. So
Rob, let's go ahead and show the people what are we going to create in the
our final result.
Exactly.
Okay, I will open Artist. So let's put it on her and see. So this is what we are going to create today. Another one. Okay. Let's close it. So, like I said, we came up with the idea to make a nice tool that will allow you to do exactly those capabilities, and will also make your life easier in terms of composition, compositing. So the idea is to use a UVW image from your 3D software, and then to use it to compose anything that we want. So what is UVW map? As you can see, for each point of a three-dimensional surface, the texture coordinates are two numbers, right? X and Y. Z is always 0 because it's to the image. Those numbers define the exact location of a point within a regular 2D image. This sets the precise way of how 2D image or 2D texture image should be placed over a 3D surface, or in our case, external render. I will open Cinema 4D now and show you how to export a UVW image with a very, very, very basic geometry. So let's create Max.
So Rob, the UVW, it allows us basically it creates coordinates that the system can read. And how do we apply that to the texture? How does the texture know where to position the graphics on the UV?
So it's very, very good question. So let's see how can we export the image, and then we explain, we go over of the technical explanation. Okay, Ronnie?
Okay.
So this is a very simple cube, very simple sphere. And I know, I don't know if you're familiar with Cinema 4D, but it's basically the same in every 3D software. So I will drag it both. I will go to this button, which is make editable. The shortcut is C. And then you can see that two tags have been added to the geometry, the UVW tag, right? I will create a very basic material and drag it to my geometry. So from now, it's very easy. You go to the render settings here. I will set an output. It doesn't matter because I want only to show one frame. So I will keep it the current frame. I go to the multipass render, turn it on, and then in the multipass option, I will choose from the several options that I have, I will choose the material UVW, and it's been added to my multipass list. So I will go to save, turn off the regular image because I only want to show the UV. Maybe we will set the path to the desktop. It will be easier. I will call it UV pass. Okay. Let's enter. In the format, I will choose an OpenEXR, but you can work with Targa or PNG as long as your file is support more than 16 bit of color. So let's stay with OpenEXR, turn off the multi-layer, and that's pretty much it. Anti-aliasing should be best, but it doesn't matter. If I press render now, and I go to the layer option, go to single object, and select my material UVW, you can see that I have, you can see my UVW. And this is how the resulting render elements look like. Red and green values display the exact UV values for each pixel. And it allows us to map any texture or 2D image that we want after the render is actually done. I will close Cinema 4D now. So the main problem is that in order to use this data, we need to work in 16 or 32-bit of color per channel. And as you know, VizRT support only 8-bit of color data. So we had to go back to our OpenGL books and think, how can we overcome this challenge? Finally, we released a couple of months ago the first version of the plugin, and we continue to improve it since then. So when you first install the plugin, you will notice that the installation comes with an extra application that called Easy Converter. This tool will help you prepare your sequences and your footage to the optimal working condition in VizRT in real time. So let's see how it works. We have a few sequences that I've exported from C4D. And let's grab our first frame from the diffuse folder into the window. So let's see it first in the image sequence player. This is our sequence. Let's drag our first frame into the window. And you can see that he already knows the sequence has the duration of 84 frames. Let's grab our rest of the sequences. So we have 4. We have the mask. We have the reflection pass. And last we have the UVW pass, which is look like this in the player. I will drag it also to my converter. I will set it to diffuse the pixel. Mask is mask. Reflection is pixel. And the last one is the UV, is the UV. So you can see that now we have 4 options to choose from, right? The pixel is any image that you want, any RGB image that you want to convert. Next, we have a mask. So regular mask, and it allows you to use any grayscale image but only one mask inside the Easy Composer. After that, we have the channel mask, the multi-mask option. This one allows you to use 3 different masks in one sequence. So you ask your 3D guy to enter 3 masks in one pass, and it saves a lot of performance and make the compositing very easy to manage. So after I set it up here, I will press convert, choose a path. Let's choose the desktop, and then all these processes take almost a minute or so, but we've prepared the EasyS file before, so I will drag it down, and I have a folder called EasyS, and here you have the 4 files that I want to use. So let's jump into Artist and see what we can do with that, right?
So Robbie, before we carry on, is there a limitation to the number of different layers or image sequences that you can use with Easy Composer?
It depends on the performance, Ronnie. So you need to work with the plugin and with your sequence, and always be aware of how many sequences and what's happening in your performance bar. So we are in Viz Artist, guys. The plugin is located in the built-in container plugins, and you have a resource folder. So here is the plugin. So let's create an empty container. I will call it Easy Composer. Now I will drag my plugin to this container, and as you can see, there is 2 containers that have been added to my 3 layers and mask. Those will be manage our sequences when we import them. So we will go to the master container, and we have an add sequence button. We'll press it, and then we will navigate to our folder that has the files. I will select everything and press open. I will go to the first container and screen it. And now, when I drag the frame here, you can see that we have an animation. So our animation is 80 frames, 84 frames, and it renders in 25 frames from cinema. We know VizRT is 50 frames per second, so I will set it to 0 on the timeline, make a keyframe, go to around 168, go to 84 here, and press the second keyframe, so I can see my animation here. So now we have the animation. If you want to animate each clip separately, you can do that from each of the child container. You just need to go to your container and set the sync button to off. And then if I go to one of the container, maybe the UV container, and play with it, you can see that you also have an option to animate each container by itself. So I will set everything in sync and go to my master and animate it from here.
So Rob, if I understand correctly, say we have, for example, a sequence that's meant to be the background, and we want to play it in a loop or differently to the other sequences. So how would I do that?
If you want to integrate another graphics with the Easy Composer,
so what we could do, we could unsync the layer, right? The background layer, and then have it separately, play out separately.
So after we made our master animation inside the Easy Composer, we want to map something to it, right? So we have the UV, we have reflection pass, and we have to diffuse. I will take my UV layer and put it in the middle. So I can see in the middle, I can see my diffuse, my UV, and my reflection map. I will turn off for now the reflection map and try to take an image and map to my UV container. So I will drag an image, play with the parameters a bit, and try to see my image and put it on the center of my main shape. So I will do -90. I will flip it. And then maybe I will do a clamp here, find it. Okay, here it is. Set the scale a bit. I use the proportion now, and then I can control it from here, right?
So basically, the layers, we have to change the order of the diffuse and diffraction layers, because the way that the viz renders the different layers that we have inside the scene is from top to bottom. So whatever will be higher up will be in front. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So the image now is mapped all over the region, right? We can isolate it very easy with our mask pass. So let's go to our mask pass. And you can see that we have 3 masks have been added to my scene. We have mask 1, which is set to the R, mask 2 set to the green, and mask 3 set to the blue. If I press debug on each of my masks, you can see a very clear presentation of how the masks look like. So this is mask 1, this is mask 2, which is the small spline behind it, and the mask 3 is the small shape on the bottom. So basically we have 3 masks. So in order to isolate my UV layer, I need to go to this container and press mask 1, right? So I press mask 1, and the Twitter logo is always will be on the center of my screen on my main shape. Let's turn on the reflection pass and tell the reflection pass to use all of my masks. So I want it to apply to mask 1, 2, and mask 3. Also, I will give it a blend mode of add, so I can see what is behind. Same behavior goes to the diffuser. So I go to the diffuse, I make it 1, 2, and 3. So now I will get an alpha channel as well, if I want to add something behind it. So I prepare a background layer. So if I drag it outside of my compositing system, you can see that it's integrated quite well. So now I want to take it to the step further. What happens if you want to add more than one image to your pass? Maybe you want to add the text to your pass. So this is the time to introduce you with the dynamic scene. I'm sure you know that if you are a Visual user, you know that you have the option to use the dynamic scene, and you can map everything you want from a different camera to your container. That is very easily to manage. Let's see how it works. I will delete my image. I will drag a data object that I preferred before. I put it above. I will open it. And then I will set the X position of the parent to 10,000. I will go to camera 2. Go to camera 2. I will reset everything and give it same value. So it's 10,000 to the right. You can see that I have an image and I have 2 text. First title, and we can set it off for now. So we have an image and we have a text. this data is located at camera 2, and we will use camera 2 to project our data into the UV layer. So let's go back to camera 1 and use the dynamic scene. I will drag the dynamic scene on the UV layer, go to the dynamic scene tab, the dynamic tab, I'm sorry, and the camera ID will be 2. I will use RGB with alpha, maybe set key on top of everything, or use auto key if you prefer. Now I will go to the texture coordinate of the dynamic scene and play with the value until I see something. So it's around -90. Let's flip it down a bit. Let's flip the Y axis and give it a wrap of clamp. That's pretty good proportion. Okay. So as you can see, we can very easily map our camera projection with several elements to the UV pass. So to take it to the step further, I would like to color correct my scene. And I'm going to use our easy shader family. The easy shader family, it's located at the shader tab. At the erasers folder, you have a brightness and contrast, hue and saturation, and levels. You have the vignette as well. So, and also you have a shader stack, which is the master shader. So if you want to add more than one effect to each container, you can do that. So let's grab our shader master, the diffuser. As you can see, Easy Shader has been added as a child. And I will go to my master and add one levels plugin and also brightness and contrast. Good. I will go to the level and maybe play a bit. So I want to tint the color down. So it will be around 40 or something. So, okay, that is nice. Now I will go to the brightness and contrast and use, instead of use the regular brightness and contrast with the RGB channel, I will go to the channel and play with it. Let's give it a value of, yeah, it's look nice. So that's pretty much it. Let's open my performance bar and see what's going on with the performance. I think that we have a lot of information I'm running, so maybe we will take a 2 minutes break and let the people ask some questions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sure. If anyone has any questions, then feel free to post them on the group chat. Or if you're not watching on Google Hangouts, then feel free to tweet us at Arizos TV, and we'll answer any of the questions that you have. So that's a really cool plugin, and you can see that in just a few minutes, you can really create dynamic and high performance graphics with deformation and stuff that aren't, and details, especially the reflection. The reflection in the scene, which is something that's not possible up to now. But Rob, can the Easy Composer plugin, can it be used as just a normal image sequence playing plugin?
Do you mean the image clip?
Yeah.
No, you can only work within our plugin, but maybe in the future. It's a very, very good question.
But what happens if I have different formats of images? What different file types does the Easy Composer work with?
It works with almost every file type. You can convert EXI files, target sequence, PNG sequence, JPEG, etc.
Okay. And I saw that you showed us a bit about the Easy Shaders. The Easy Shaders plugin, so it just works natively with Easy Composer? Are there any limitations? Okay, so let's take a few minutes of break, 2 minutes, to see if any questions come in. If not, then we'll start talking about the deformation feature of the Easy Post Effects plugin. We have about 20 minutes until the end of this webcast. It got cut short a bit because of the technical issues. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the Easy Post Effects plugin. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to show a little bit of a technical overview of deformation and the properties that we have within it. Okay, so in the latest version of the Easy Post Effects plugin, we added the depth of field in real time to the Easy Post Effects plugin. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and add the plugin to our scene. So the first thing that's important to notice about this plugin is that it's in the Geom plugins tab of VizRT and not in the scene plugins. And I'll explain to you in a minute why this is. So I created an empty group here in my scene, and I'll drag the plugin onto that container. And now you can see in version 1.00, we have the ambient occlusion properties that you can turn on, and the new one, which is the depth of field. Okay, the other thing that we fixed in this version is render scale issues that we had with Virtual Studios. So this is only for Virtual Studios. We added this Virtual Studio fix. So basically what the issue was is that the way that VizRT renders textures, if you have the render scale property on, it blows up the image, and then we had a bit of offsets going on. So if you work in a Virtual Studio set, or if you work in the video installation of VizArtist, then you'll see the output only on the external monitor. And if you see any offsets in your scene or in the effects, just go ahead and turn on the Virtual Studio Fix parameter, and that's like a fix everything button, which will make everything work nicely. Okay, so depth of field. I have this scene over here, which I created earlier, which I'm going to show you, explain to you the different properties. So let's go ahead and do that. If we go ahead and turn on okay, before I jump into the depth of field, just the thing I was talking about is the scene settings. Once I add the Easy Post Effects plugin to my scene, and I go to Scene Settings, Plugin, we see that there is a scene plugin. So again, the reason why it's in the geometry plugins is because that VizRT doesn't allow you to animate the properties of scene plugins. And obviously we wanted to give you all the flexibility and capabilities of the system. So it's just a geometry plugin where I can create keyframes and animations on all of the properties that you see here. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go ahead and turn this on. A second. Okay. So we have the two most important properties here to understand is the focal plane and the focus size. So what are those properties? And I'm going to help you understand how it works. So in the scene that I have here, the blue sphere at the bottom is my camera, and the gray box is the object that I want in my scene. And this pink rectangle that we have here is actually the focal plane. So what is the focal plane? focal plane is the area that is in focus at the moment. So if this scene was a 3D scene and we had the depth of field plugin set up, the cube, the gray cube, would be out of focus because it's not in our focal plane. If, however, the cube was positioned within the focal plane, like so, it would be in focus. That's the focal plane. It is the area in the scene that is in focus. The other property that we had, which was the focus plane range, or let's see, the focus size, okay? That is the area, the total size of this pink, of the focal range. So for example, if I bring that down, this is what would actually happen. And now only part of the cube would be in focus, but the areas that are outside of the pink box would be out of focus.
Ronnie, can we see a real example?
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and create an example. Okay, so what I have here is a scene that I set up earlier with the Easy Carousel plugin, which is part of the Easy Gallery plugin, which you guys can go to our website and download. Basically what it does, it takes all its child containers and arranges them in a carousel, which I can easily animate. And just if I go ahead and press play, you can see what's happening. So what I would like to do in this example is every time the texture or the container that's in the front here of the screen, that will be in focus and the elements behind it will be out of focus. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, I'll just add an empty container to my scene. I'll go to geometry plugins, grab easy post effects, and I'll turn on the depth of field. Okay. So now you can see that everything is out of focus. So Robbie's going to go ahead and explain why this is happening.
So we have a 500 pixel on the Z, right, on the camera. So if I want the main element will be in focus, we will go to our plugin and set the focal plane to 500, right, Ronnie?
Yeah. So that's what I was explaining before, is the size of our the area that's in focus. Okay. So this is great. And now you can see that the elements at the back are in focus. The other way that we can set focus quickly on containers is if we turn on the events button here in our stage, and then holding down the F button on our keyboard and clicking on the container that we want to be in focus, the plugin will automatically update the focal plane and the properties so that that container will be in focus. So let's go ahead and do that again. I'm holding down the F key on my keyboard and clicking on the container that I want. So that's a quick way to set focus on containers, which is great, but sometimes we need a little bit more control or understanding of what elements in our scene are in focus. So I'm just going to go ahead quickly and close this for now and show a basic example. Let's add the post effects plugin again, and I'm going to turn on the depth of field. Actually, let's turn it off for now, and let's get so let's just get the default. I want to create a floor.
We'll create a floor. Let's put it -90. Okay, we'll scale it a lot and move it to the Y. So now you have very, very basic floor. Just a second.
Okay, and I'm going to add a cube and a sphere, or two cubes to the, let's add a cube and a sphere, it'll be easier to see. Okay, let's add a texture to them so that we can see them better. Okay, great. So now that I have my objects in my scene and I have this floor effect, so let's go ahead and turn on the depth of field plugin again, and you can see everything's blurred out. Again, I'm going to, I can go to camera, see my Z position, which is 500. And then in my plugin, I can set the focal plane to 500. Okay, so this is great. So as you can see, only part of the cube's in focus. Let's understand why this is happening. What I can do is I can turn on the debug parameter, which basically only shows the objects that are in focus and the size of the focal plane, so, or the focal size. So if you, as you can see, as I increase the focal size, you can see the area of the scene that is in focus. So the debug tool is really handy to show us exactly which objects in our scene are in focus. So I can go ahead and turn that off. And now you can see we have focus on our objects. Let's grab the sphere and move it in the Z position. So if I move it closer to the camera, you can see that it goes out of focus. And I'll move it back and it goes out of focus again. Let's see this again with the debug turned on. So as you can see, only the cube is in focus, so we don't see the sphere. And now I'm going to move the sphere, and you see as it comes into focus, we see it in the debug mode. And when it goes out of focus, because it's too close to the camera, it disappears again. So the debug focus, the debug feature really gives us an understanding of what's happening. So the last thing I wanted to show you is if we just grab the focal size and we make it a bit smaller. Okay, so as you can see here, right next to the bottom part of the cube here, we kind of see the blur and then it gets cut out. So the reason this is happening is because the focal plane is the entire width of our screen. So in order, it looks like a bug, but it's not, because that part of the floor is actually in focus. So to fix this, what we can do is we have the feather parameter inside the depth of field, and I can just bring this up and bring my focal size down, and that really smoothens off the area between what's in focus and what's not. So again, if I move the sphere, let's grab the sphere and just move it, you can see now we don't have this hard cutoff when it goes out of focus, but it's more of a gentle effect. So you can play with the feather parameter to achieve the amount of blur, or the hardness of the cut between the focal point and the rest of the scene. So the last two parameters here is the blur type, which is high, takes a little bit more performance, but it gives a bit of a better quality blur along the side. And if you have a very large scene with a lot of geometries in it and you need to save some performance, you can set blur to low. And also we have the blur amount. So if we bring this right down,
if you want to animate effect.
Yeah, if you want to animate something coming into focus, then you can just go ahead and play with the blur amount. So that's the focus, the depth of field in our Easy Post Effects plugin. Rob, is there anything else you want to add to?
No, thank you, Ronnie. Guys, we are still waiting for your questions. So please think about some questions, and we are here. We are waiting. Let's take a break of 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll
see what's going on.
Yeah, sounds
okay.
Good. So guys, that brings us to the end of our webcast. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us on our first webcast. We will be doing another webcast in a couple of weeks.
If you have any suggestion about the subject of things that you want to talk about, or you want to ask some questions, please
let us know on Facebook or on Twitter, or drop us an email. We're thinking of doing an Easy Logic webcast next. But if you guys are interested in something else, just let us know. You can download all of our plugins from our website and purchase them as well. Thanks for joining. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And it's been fun.
Thank you.
Take care.